Back, and we are 1 week away. We are 1 week away from Overwatch League returning. I'm getting so hyped. You can probably just hear the giddiness in my voice. Unfortunately, I didn't want this to start like this format, the same as last year, where it's just me talking on PlayStation. Because you can't really see anything else in the background. You don't really have anything to look at while it's all going down, besides like teams and skins. So it's unfortunate. I have been trying to figure everything out with the Elgato, and it's just like one issue after another. It's like, oh, didn't you used to do this before? Well, it's completely different. We had two of us. Having one computer makes it very difficult because I don't have a powerful enough computer to be able to run the Elgato, capture everything, have the face cam, do a whole bunch of other things. It just kind of explodes when that happens. So that is unfortunate. I'm still trying to figure it out. I was trying to just hook up Elgato to PlayStation 4 today, and then I could still get face cam and a couple other things in there. But then my overlays were really all thrown out of whack. There was stuff in there I didn't want to be there, and stuff I wanted to be there wasn't. And then I had a huge audio issue. So still ironing those issues out. I really wanted to do that for the power rankings, but since we're only a week away, we're going to have to at least start the power rankings like this. So I apologize for that. Hopefully I get it figured out soon, so you can see my face. And I was going to say beautiful, but it's just a face. Not too gross, not too amazing, just a face. So hopefully that will be up soon, but for now, we're just going to split it into 4 parts. I'm going to do 5 teams per, starting with 16 to 20, which I'll be doing in this video, and then 10 to 15, etc., or 11 to 15, 6 to 10, 1 to 5. So, yeah, here we go. One last thing before that. Starting on Saturday, there will be a bunch of, I forget what they call it, community. It was like a community hype up events before Overwatch League. They're doing scrims on Saturday and Sunday. You can just, if you want to see like specifics of this, just check the Overwatch League website. It'll be one of the first things that pops up. So there's scrims if you want to watch those, just kind of get little previews before the matches. The first 2 days, and then they're doing Ash 1v1s with some of the best Ashes around the league. They're doing I think 1v1. They're doing and a paintball. I know that for sure. So that'll be interesting. And then the last thing that they have is it's a 6v6 match, kind of like what happened with the talent last year at the All-Star game. You know, the talent played against each other. This is probably what I'm the most excited for. It's a show match, 6v6, 6 p.m. Pacific time, and that is Wednesday the 13th, the day before it comes back. And the teams are Zoe, Uber, Mirage, Cowboy B-Bamf. I'm not sure who that is. Kark, who is a pretty famous like streamer in the community, and he does a lot of like tips for heroes and stuff like that. And then Emong, one of the biggest streamers, a guy who I think should be on a competitive team, whether it's Contenders or Overwatch League. I feel that personally, but that's besides the point. And then the team they're going against, I don't know. It's I don't know who I'd pick for this one. They have Hexagrams, an analyst, Fran, who is a popular streamer. They got Puckett from the desk. They got Mr. X, an analyst, the Body Shot Widow Master himself. Stylosa, from VDEDGaming. He's a pretty famous YouTuber on the scene. He also works with the London Spitfire. And then Lee Tae-jung. So it's that match will be crazy. I'm excited for that. So yeah, it's because you cram the broadcast talent and the streamers together. We'll see who has the edge. I would probably give a slight edge to the away team just because of Kark and Emong in combination. Even though Mr. X played pretty well last time we saw him. Stylosa is a high Masters to low GM player, so he's pretty good. Fran is a good player as well. So yeah, tune into those if you'd like to. On the 12th, they got Capture the Flag with some of the teams. But yeah, 1v1 and a paintball. So that will be real interesting. That's on the 11th. And then, like I said, 9th and 10th are scrims. So yeah, that's exciting. They just announced that earlier today. So check those out if you are like me and are just counting down the days to OWL. That'll tide you over. All right, so very long intro. Now we're going to get into it. I'm not going to be super in-depth with these. Again, power rankings are kind of just educated guesses, if we're honest. Everyone that does it has their own biases. They have their own teams they like. Players they don't like in other teams, and that's going to maybe subliminally, but it's going to affect what they do. And I'm no different. I have my own biases and things that will persuade me to put other teams a little higher than they might want to be. I tried to negate that as much as I could. So yeah, let me know what you think about these power rankings. And here we go. Number 20. It is a team that was in Overwatch League Season 1. Is it the No, it's not the Dragons. It's the Florida Mayhem. Now, this team is a complete mess. They were bad in Season 1. They were 11th. They got rid of most of their team and brought in a lot of new players. The only ones they kept around were a Saya player and Tavik. So this team on paper looks better than they were last year, but they don't look special in my eyes in any kind of way. They picked up Hago Pien, who was formerly of the London Spitfire. They picked up Swoon, who's been on a bunch of different teams for main tank duties. They got Chris, BQB, SNT, Zephyr, who was formerly of the Seoul Dynasty, and Apply. So they picked up some decent players. Nothing against them, but the organization is a mess. They've never had the right kind of coaching staff between Season 1 or Season 2. Right now they have 2 European coaches coaching a squad that's all Korean except for Tavik and Apply, and especially Apply's on a 2-way contract, which means he will be in contenders for probably 90% of the time, and Tavik will probably be riding the bench. BQB, one of their new DPS players, was maybe facing a suspension because of boosting allegations, so that might change it as well. Maybe Tavik would see playtime because of that, but full Korean roster, you got European coaches, doesn't make much sense to me. Saya player has mega carry potential on heroes like Widow and McCree, but I mean, he played amazing last season. I can't see him playing much better this season, and he still didn't really help them win that many games. They still went 7-33 and finished 11th place. So it's a dysfunctional organization. That was one of the main things that I focused on going into this season, because I really do think that the talent levels have kind of evened out. Last year it was pretty clear cut from the bottom 5, bottom 6, and the top 6, just in terms of ability and talent. But I think this year it's going to be a lot closer. I think a lot of teams could finish 20th, and a lot of those teams that could finish 20th could also finish 11th or 12th. So we shall see. I think it's a big pack in the middle. But yeah, because they didn't really bring in a specific team. They didn't bring in a lot of players who were super familiar with each other. Like I said, I don't think they're well coached, well run. They seem to be a very cheap organization going back to last year, and it doesn't seem much better this year. So for those reasons, I'm going to have Florida at 20. 19 is going to be a new team. It's the Chengdu Hunters. So they're one of the teams that has gotten the most flack for just having kind of a weak roster. One thing I think that they have going for them, though, Chengdu has the Royal Never Give Up is the organization that owns them, and they are a very well-respected organization in esports. They've had very, very successful league teams, and they know how to run teams. They put people together that are going to do well. So I think that is one thing that they have going for them. They're kind of like, you see the colors, they're kind of like Philly, the orangey. But I just think that their talent level isn't quite up there with a lot of the other teams. Some players on their team include Yveltal, support player. Gary and Kyo are the other support players. For tanks, they have Ameng, Late Young, Elsa, and then G. Kieran. I'm sure I butchered that one. And then some of their DPS players, they have Yang Xiaolong, Jin Mu, and Bacon Jack. So, Yveltal and Yang Xiaolong and Late Young are some players that fans might recognize. Other than that, they don't have a whole lot here. One thing that they have going for them, they all speak the same language. The team has been together for a while. Like they were one of the first teams to solidify their roster in the off season. So I think they'll have a couple things like that going for them. Pretty good camaraderie, and like I said, well run. I think they'll have good coaches in place, but the talent just doesn't stack up for me. I took schedules into account a little bit as well. Their schedule looks pretty tough early on. So I don't love this team's chances to do great. I think that at best they're like a 14 or a 15, but we'll see. I mean, Boston effect last year. No one thought they'd be good, and they were. But just looking at them going into the league, I can't put them any higher than 19. So moving on to 18, we have... It's another new team. It's the Washington Justice. So part of me really wanted to put the Justice higher. They've probably been, besides Chengdu, even with Chengdu, they might be like the team that everyone has scoffed at. When they were doing their Overwatch League Watchpoint preview for the season, Zoe said that she would be surprised if they won a match, and that kind of caught people's attention. And while I agree that talent-wise they're not up there with a lot of the other teams, I do think that they have a really solid baseline, kind of like Chengdu, but I think that they have a little more potential than the Hunters do, just because of some of their players. So they have Janice as their main tank, formerly of the New York Excelsior. He is a solid player. He's not a carry on main tank, but he's not gonna throw very often. A lot of times he's just gonna do what he's gonna do what he does pretty effectively. And that's always nice to have in a main tank player, because especially nowadays in the GOATS meta, they are probably the most important person on the entire team. So having a good one is very important. I think he'll fill out the role solidly. I feel like in Season 1, we didn't get to see him a whole lot on Reinhardt because Winston was meta. So we'll have to see how good his Reinhardt is specifically, but I think he's a pretty solid baseline. Also from New York Excelsior, they have their coach, Wizard Young, and he is a very good coach, highly respected throughout the league, did a fantastic job, obviously, with the Excelsior last season. So that's what I mean by, like, they have a pretty solid baseline. Also, I think they have some very, very nice pieces DPS-wise. For other tanks, they have Sansam, or Sansam? Yeah, Sansam. And try saying that 10 times fast, or even like 5 times fast. He is the off-tank. Also, they have, for their DPS, I think this is really where it could make a difference. They have Stratus, who is a very good projectile player. I don't know if he'll play too much, though. For Hitscan, they have Corey. He's formerly of Gladiators Legion for the first 2 seasons of Contenders. And he kind of reminds me of Linkser in a way, where you would really like to see more consistency from him. But when he's going nuts, he goes nuts. I mean, he destroys people. And having that kind of like carry potential on your team is going to win them games. He'll probably lose them some games too, because like I said, there's some games where he's just not effective at all. Holy shiny Bob. But I think overall he does a team more good than bad, especially if you have other solid DPS to kind of be solid. And entering that, they have Addo, formerly of the Shanghai Dragons. He was one of the people that the Dragons picked up midway through the season. He played very well. A lot of people figured that the Dragons would keep him for Season 2. They did not, to my surprise and the surprise of many others throughout the scene. And I think Washington really got a nice gem when they picked him up. Like I said, him and Stratus have about the same roles. I mean, from what I remember of Stratus, he's been in the scene for a long time. Farah is his ace. He really did well on Farah in a lot of maps. And then Otto is more of a Genji specialist. So we'll see how they play them, if one gets a lot of playtime over the other, or if they at least start with kind of a balance. But the supports are really where I have my issues. They brought in Guido from the Soul Dynasty. Guido doesn't do a whole lot for me. I think he's okay. But on Zen in this meta, I think it's important to have a more than okay Zenyatta, and I don't think that's him. They have Phozix, who was formerly on NRG Esports. He's a good player. We'll see how much he plays, because they have 3 supports, so we'll see how they juggle that. And they also have Heian Yu. Not really sure how to pronounce it. So that's kind of where I have my issue. I kind of have to see. I'm not saying that their support line is trash, but I'm saying I need to see it. I don't really believe in it, just seeing it on paper. But this team, a lot of people have said they're going to be the worst, and a lot of people have said they have that Boston quality where like they might be way better than people expect. I would like to put them higher than 18. I really would. But I just can't really do it. Looking at them and stacking them up against a lot of the other teams. So, moving on to 17. Now, this is where it got really hard for me. Like the 13 to 17 range, oh man, it's like, I feel like you could just put anyone anywhere. Especially, like, there's a bunch of teams, like the Fuel, the Outlaws, the Charge, the Defiant. There's a lot of teams where it's like, they could be all the way here, they could be all the way down there. But after thinking about it for a long time, I have decided to go with the Toronto Defiant. And I think this is maybe not quite a bit, but it is lower than a lot of people have them. I just don't love this team when I see it. They have Ivy, Stellar, Rocky, Yakpung, and Aid, all new players to Overwatch League. Don't know a whole lot about them, but they have, just looking at like past teams' performances, they perform pretty well. I don't think any of them will come in and like be amazing, but I think they'll do a pretty solid job. And then they have 3 players that are formerly from Overwatch League teams. They have Envy, who was on the LA Valiant for about the first half, or I think it was just like the first stage of the Overwatch League. Asher, formerly of LA Gladiators, and then Neko from the Boston Uprising. Neko is a Zen player, an off support. Asher is a DPS player. Pretty much, we only saw him on Tracer, and then a little bit of McCree, a little bit of Widow in Season 1 of Overwatch League. Asher was one of those players where he was pretty inconsistent. He got kind of rolling in, I want to say it was later stage 3? It was either 2 or 3. He got rolling, and he looked like one of the better Tracers. But again, one of those inconsistent players where he's not like a Sabiobi where you always get like top of the line performance, or Prophet, or Carpe, one of those guys. I think he's kind of a class below them, which is not to say he doesn't belong in the league. He definitely belongs in the league. I was a bit sad to see him go on the Gladiators. He'll be a solid player for them, but I don't see carry potential, and at least not consistent carry potential from him. So we'll see how they split it up with him, Stellar, and Ivy, DPS wise. But I don't see carry from any of them. And in Overwatch League, it just seems like you need at least one carry on DPS. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to keep losing map 5s if you get there. That was another thing that I really focused on. Oh, we can take a moment to appreciate the skin though. This skin is fucking sick. But anyway, Neko, he was a pretty good player from Boston. And then Envy was statistically one of the best divas in the league, but he got cut, and that's a big red flag to me. And I realized that they had Space coming up, who couldn't play at first because he was too young, and that was part of it. But still, he was ranked in the top 3 in pretty much every category on Diva, and they went 7-3, I believe, the first stage, and they cut him. Like I said, I feel like that's probably a team issue, attitude problem, and that is very worrisome for me. So yeah, with this team, I think they're solid, but when I look at all the other teams, I'm like, I don't think they're going to pull out close matches. They have a pretty tough schedule early on as well, and if they get off to a bad start, do guys like Envy and Neko's had a little bit of issues as well. Do they start to tilt, and then what happens with the team? So because of that, I'm going to have to put them at number 17, although I could see them finishing top 10-ish. But with everything considered, they're going in at 17. And now, so this is an interesting one, the final one for this video, at number 16. This is a team I struggled with a lot, and if you know my channel, and if you watched last year, you'll know that my history with this team is not great. It's the Boston Uprising. So, if my channel was if my channel was Jesus Christ, if my channel was more famous, all right, if I had like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watching, I would be known in the Overwatch community as a Boston hater from last season. I always doubted them. Just something about them always rubbed me the wrong way, and because of that, even when they were doing really well, I was like, yeah, they're not that good. So I would say appropriately I've been deemed a Boston hater, and that I'm okay with that. And like I said, I didn't even like have a problem with most of their players. I mean, there's Dreamcasper, who everyone should have a problem with him. But besides that, it's just like I don't like the org. I don't like Huck. They always beat like my team, and yeah, they just rubbed me the wrong way. So the reason they're going at 16 though, I mean, they lost Striker. I remember saying this like when I was watching. I remember saying this in videos. I was like, they keep winning map 5. Boston always goes to a map 5 and they always win. What is it about this team? And then I realized it. Oh yeah, I know why. It's because they had a godly Tracer. Striker just carried map 5s, because map 5s are control points. And in Season 1 of Overwatch League, because Tracer was meta essentially the whole season, having a very good Tracer was so important. And man, if Boston had I would say probably top 3 at least, or at least top 5, probably top 3. I probably have Striker at like 2 or 3 in terms of Tracer play. So they had that carry factor, but as you guys know, if you followed the offseason at all, Striker is gone. He's on the San Francisco Shock. Boston, despite having a very good Season 1, they had a ton of drama, and I think that's eventually going to catch up to them. They lost all 3 of their DPSs that they started last season with are gone. Striker has been traded to the Shock. Dreamcasper was kicked off the team because of terrible things that he did, and Mistakes was not brought back because of kind of lackluster play. He wanted to go somewhere else, and he eventually ended up retiring. So they have none of their DPS from last season. The only reason they're this high for me is because they're proven. I'd say I was kind of tempted to put them like 18 or 19, honestly, but They had the success last season. They've already proved me and other haters wrong, and they're a team that's pretty well run. Even though, like I said, I don't like Huck, but they did lose Krusty. Their one of their coaches from last season, he left, I believe, end of stage 3, right after they had gone 10-0, and after that, their performance dipped a lot. So we'll see. I mean, I think they could end up being the lowest ranked, at least of the old teams. But good things for them. They do still retain a lot of the rest of their roster. They have Gamsu, who's a very good main tank. They have Note, a very good off tank. They bring back Aim God and Kelix, who I think are solid. Not amazing, but solid. And then the DPSs that they've added were Blase, who was also formerly of Gladiators Legion, and Color Hex. And I think they're solid. They'll be okay. But again, I don't see the carry potential in there. I think Blase was on a contenders team. He was the second best DPS. So is he going to come in and be as good as Dreamcast was the first couple stages? I doubt it. Is Color Hex going to fill in the shoes of Striker? I doubt it. So when they have those close matches, I think they're going to lose a lot more of them. And against the teams that just have superior firepower, it's not going to go well for them. But they will win their fair share of games because of a solid tank line, a support line that has experience and has played with the team a lot. So that's why they kind of fall in right at number 16. So there's the top 5. Well, I guess the bottom 5. First 5, part 1, power rankings. Like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. You think anybody's higher than they should be? You think anyone's... That's probably not going to be too much of a thing because they're already in the lowest. But do you think I severely underrated someone? Do you think Boston's going to be as good as they were last year? Do you think Chengdu or Washington or Florida will surprise people? If I would guess, I would say probably the most flack would be for Toronto, being above some teams that we will see pretty soon. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have a great couple days, and then I'll see you in part 2 in our power rankings.